Hello, J-Man in the garage once again, and we want to today talk about how we're going to mount a second battery in this Sea-Doo Sportster to enable us to run that trolling motor that we took so long to build in the very last video. So in order to do that, we're going to have to go into the engine compartment, have a quick look, and make a couple of assessments in terms of what we want to do, and then we'll show you a couple of clips of different things that I had in terms of ideas, and then we'll wrap things up. All right, we're back, and you'll see that I've got one of the contour tools that I purchased a little while ago. Very, very convenient for something that I'm going to need to. What I'm looking to do right now is I'm looking to try to, here's where the regular battery goes. I'm going to try to put my battery, my second battery, sideways here to allow me to have access to it. In order to do that, you can see that there's a whole host of different contours here, and that's where this comes in handy. So I put this contour tool down here and pressed it all down nice and firm so that I can get the exact profile of the Sea-Doo base here. And then once I do that and I lift it up, I trace this line right here onto a piece of 3/4 ply, and I build a bunch of supports. And I'll show you what I'm talking about right here. I built one, there's the contour that we're talking about, and notice that when I drop that on here, you can see that I've got my first profile here of the base of my battery holder. So what I want to do is I'm going to run 1, 2, and 3 profiles, 3 bases like that, and then build my battery holder on top of that. It allows me to keep the battery as low as I possibly can, and it should allow me an access to putting the battery in. Okay, now I've used the baseline profiles to create, and you can see here that I've got, if you look on the side here, that's that same profile I was talking about making before. I'm using 1, 2, and 3 3/4 inch profiles along the bottom, and you'll notice that along the side, the short side, I've made one piece also with the same profile, but a little higher on the wall because I'm going to build a little bit of a box for the battery. On the back side, you'll notice that I've made even a taller wall, but it is one piece, also conforming the way that the other contours went as well. So you can see here that I've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 supports at the very base of my battery holder. Now you'll notice that I've got 2 things that are protruding on this side. You can see on the side profile how that's going to look, and the reason for that is when and if we get into a situation where once I glue this down, if it loosens up, I want to have these these little ends here to butt against some of the things that we have in the Sea-Doo Sportster to prevent this thing from sliding if we get into that situation. Now my goal here, and you can also see here that at the very back, I've just glued and screwed this base here. That's 1/2 inch plywood. And essentially now I've got one working piece where I'm going to be able to slide my battery in here, and then I will be able to lock it in place. It's not going to go anywhere. So we're going to come back in just a second. I'm going to get into the boat and I'm going to show you how this fits in. Okay, we're back again, and now we're going to just take this little construction that we've got here. We're going to drop it in and see how it fits. Now this tall wall right here is going to be the wall that's furthest away, so I've got to go upside down and I've got to bring this in on an angle so that everything just slides in, and now I'm going to rotate it so that it'll drop down. Now I've taken the time to make sure that everything fits, and now the harness is down. You can see right here that the short side is right here. We're going to have the 2 battery posts facing on this side here. We've got a good security on the wall here. Again, it's not glued down yet, but you'll also notice that I've got these security panels here. So even if once it's glued and down, if it does happen to let go, there's no possible way it can move more than 1/8 of an inch because I've got it virtually against the gas tank. Now the idea here is I'm going to use a product called 610 adhesive. It's great for plywood and fiberglass adhesion. So now that I've got it fitting properly and it looks great, it's not warped at all, or it's sitting square and tight. So now what I'm going to be doing is at the very bottom, I'm going to be applying the adhesive to all those 3 big runs, a little bit off the back. I'm going to run some adhesive along the side so that it's going to touch right to the battery harness here, and we should be down for the count. Should work very, very well. Then it's simply a matter of me. You'll notice that there's no tray here on this one. There's going to be no lip for me to have to lift it into. I'm going to be able to bring the battery down, drop it on this platform right here, and then slowly slide it in and get it in place. I'm going to paint it up. We're going to get it finished. I'm going to show you how I install the battery once I got a few of the fine details done. Other than that, this thing is ready to roll. We're going to have a great day of fishing. It's a little windy out here today, but we're still going to give it a go. I wanted to just make one quick mention before we do the final part right now, which is the gluing. I'm going to be using an epoxy compound, and you'll see right down below here that what I've done is I've put the lines down where my actual apparatus will sit, and I'm going to put a line of epoxy on each of these lines here, as well as alongside the original battery holder for the original battery. And so this side and 3 lines, I'm going to drop that on there, and we should be good to go in about 48 hours once it's dry. In this clip, I'm talking about the adhesive 610 adhesive epoxy, which has been very, very good for this particular project. I'm just mentioning here that there's a nice pre-mixing needle, so you don't have to do any mixing. It can come straight out of the nozzle. Essentially what I'm doing here in this clip is I am running epoxy beads in the 3 locations that I have previously identified. You can see that I've already got them marked in pencil there, and I'm just going to run a couple of beads in each of those spots where the contact is going to be made from the battery holder. This will be done sort of as an additional measure because I'm going to turn around and hop out of the boat and go ahead and add the epoxy to the actual battery holder itself. But this will enable me the opportunity to ensure that the contact and the adhesion is going to be excellent. So in a moment, I'm just going to be stepping out of the boat and showing you the next part. Okay, now what I'm going to do very quickly here is I'm just going to add some. You can see how this is coming out now. I'm just going to put a bead here. This is gap filling as well, so we are going to be fairly generous here because we want adhesion to that fiberglass. So I'm just making sure I have enough to cover everything that I need. Looks like I've got lots of material here. I'm not going to see this underside anyway, so I can be a little bit sloppy here. I want to make sure I've got more than enough epoxy on here. I can't have that battery flying away on me. So I'm going a little generous here. Now on the short side, this is the part that's going to be underneath, because when I'm flipping this over, so I've measured it out so that anything underneath this steel here, this mount, is legit. And this is really good epoxy. It sticks sideways here, so you can put it on and it will not run on you. so I can get all this prepped, and we should be ready to roll. So that's quite a bit of adhesive material here. Should be no issue for it to hold, and there's no reason to put it anywhere else because these are the only points that it's going to touch. All right, now you can see we've got a lot of epoxy there, a lot of epoxy on the side. I've already got a few lines of epoxy there. I've got about a half an hour to kind of get this thing all lined up. So I got to be just a little bit careful here right now, dipping it in and trying to get it so that it's going to be in the right position. I got to watch that hose over here. There we go. And lo and behold, I want to make sure that hose is loose. We are down, folks. We are down. This epoxy is already, I can just see and feel how strong this is. I'm going to move this epoxy right into this gap right here because I went a little bit crazy with it on the outside. I missed a part there, so I think we're good. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're simply going to add a little bit of weight to the apparatus. The suggestion is not to use the full weight, so what I've chosen to do here is select just a couple of 4-liter containers that I have that are full of liquid, and what we're going to do is well, you can see that I'm trying to add that second jug, but I've got the strapping in the way, so I'll just have to quickly undo that strapping just to make sure that I have a room for the 4-liter to sit. I also have to make sure the strapping stays away from that epoxy because I'll need that strapping to use later on. You can see here now that I've got the second 4-liter weight added to the harness, and essentially what we need to do here is just let it sit. Now, in order to let this epoxy cure to its fullest, it would be best to leave it for about 48 hours. So I'm going to leave it for 48 hours. I'm going to come back to you and show you what we've got. Okay, we are 48 hours later, and we now have a very, very secure battery holder for our residual battery. Now, some people like to use a second battery just to have on hand, run 2 batteries together to run their system. Mine, the purpose of it is to run a regular battery for starting and running my motor. The second battery is going to be for running my trolling motor. It doesn't matter, whatever your application is, this might be something that could be useful for you. Now, no matter how you slice it, putting the battery in is clumsy because the batteries are heavy. I've got a Group 27 battery coming in here, deep cycle. I'm going to show you how I'm going to put it in, and then I'll show you how I'm going to actually attach it so that you can see the security in the boat. Let me grab the battery. Now, there doesn't seem to be a real easy way to put it in, so once you get it kind of hanging over the top, I've got my posts right on this side here. I'm going to bring it in just on an angle, and that's why I had this platform set up. And now I'm going to push this over and just carefully go sliding the battery until it falls into place. And that was pretty easy. Now what I'm going to do, I didn't talk about this before, but I'm going to show some pictures on my video, just some still pictures, and this is what I designed to actually sort of close the wall system and the security for the battery. I also put a little edge on here, and you can see that, so that when I put this on in place, you can see where that fits. And then now what I'm going to do is I've got a strapping system. So this strap is going to run underneath that, and then here all I have to do is a real simple press it through and get it in line, and just give it a quick little tug, and that battery isn't going anywhere. So now we've actually got the battery in place, strapped on, nice and tight. It's basically walled all the way around. It isn't going to go anywhere, and you can always just do a little extra tug just to make sure that you've got it in place. I can take this and wrap it around here to prevent the cable from getting anywhere, the strap from getting anywhere. It shouldn't be a problem. It's pretty short. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be running my trolling motor battery cable into this open area. It doesn't have any effect on the actual top here. So the wire is going to run here. It's going to drop right through. You can see my hand right here. It's going to drop right through here. I'm going to make my 2 connections and be able to close the system off, and I am ready to rock and roll. When I'm not using it, I'm going to be probably taking the battery out. I probably won't leave the 2 batteries in here, but maybe I will. We'll see how it goes. The epoxy, the 610 epoxy adhesive really worked tremendously well. I gave it the full 48 hours. It is amazingly strong. This thing isn't going to go anywhere. I'm going to have to take a sledgehammer to get it out, and I'm not going to be doing that. So anyways, we should be good now for all the fishing. We have done all the work that we need to do. Now it's time to get out there and do it. Here's just a few shots for you to take a look at where we have the battery in its harness now, just so that you can get a couple of different angles. You can see here that I've got both batteries in place. The second battery now a little lower than the other, and just trying to get some different angles so you can kind of get a perspective as to where the batteries are in respect to each other. Now here's the trolling motor assembly, wiring going through and onto through the hole and into the battery port where the cables just need to be hooked up, and we are ready to roll. Now that the battery harness has been made, let's review the entire project. We built the transom right at the very end of the Sea-Doo Sportster to hold the trolling motor, and you can see that we've extended the battery cable to a longer cable. It is yellow and black now. It's about 8 feet in length, and it's running right alongside the motor port there on the outside. And now that we've lifted the motor hood up, you can see that the cable will just simply run through one of the vent ports that is readily available in the boat. And essentially all we need to do at this point is take the yellow and black cable and hook it to the respective posts and close the hatch, and we are ready to go fishing with our trolling motor. Everything should work perfect. Well, this takes us to the end of the project. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope it's been useful for you. By all means, after you've watched part or all of the video, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think, and maybe there's something else that you would like to contribute. Either way, it's been fun. Hope you get something out of this.